I want to talk to you about why CEO branding is not bragging. So I get calls every week from a CEO who says to me, I know I should build my CEO brand, but I just don't want to sound like I'm bragging. I can't stand it when some CEO is all puffed up and full of themselves. And my answer to that person is always, I completely agree. It's not a very attractive quality to be bragging or boastful. But at the same time, I have CEOs who think that the way they should address their CEO brand is what I call the aw shucks method, right? So they have all these accomplishments, but they're like, nah, aw shucks, I'm just a guy. And the reality is I don't think either one of those works very well. I think really there's something in between being a complete bragger and being aw shucks. And what's in between is what I call the humility of contribution. So if you know as a CEO that of course you got to where you are by your own efforts and your own smarts and your own activity, but if you also know that you got there by other people's grace and kindness and help, that gives you a certain humility. And if you take that humility even further and you have a genuine desire as a CEO to mentor, to give back, to contribute what it is that you know, if you're building your CEO brand out of that place, it rarely comes off braggy and it doesn't come off as aw shucks either. So I hope in this very short episode, I've given you the inspiration not to be braggy and not to be aw shucks, but to truly come from that humility of contribution in the way that you build your CEO brand. Do the words you use to describe your CEO brand need changing? So often we use words that are very general or terms that are very general to describe our personal brands or our business brands and our CEO brands as well. We say things like, I'm a good leader. I believe in team skills, or I believe in teamwork. I believe in taking care of your people. I believe in being ethical. By the way, all of which are great and important things, but they're what we call in writing, telling rather than showing. And part of a good CEO brand and describing a CEO brand has to do with how you translate those general and generic ideas into very specific actions. So rather than saying something like, I believe in teamwork, or I believe in the value of teams, it's saying something like, whenever we have a new project that starts in my company, I gather together a team of the people that have a relationship with that issue. And I start by asking them all for their input on what they think the goal should be. That's, again, what we call in writing, showing rather than telling. And the thing about having those kinds of specifics and using that kind of specific language with your CEO brand is that it makes it what I call crunchy, right? It makes it something that's really easy for people to get a sense of, as opposed to this abstract concept. So I want you to think about this week, how do you talk about your CEO brand? What are the words that you use? What is the language that you use? And how can you change that language to be more about showing what your CEO brand is about rather than telling what your CEO brand is about? I want to talk to you about the 3 types of thought leadership that you can build your CEO brand around. And the first type is what I call celebrity thought leadership. So these are CEOs that are known for their personality. They are experts in their field, but it's really the flash and the fanfare that gets them really known. That's what's at the heart of the profile of those leaders. So think of someone like Steve Jobs or Richard Branson. And then the second type is cerebral CEOs. And these are people that are best known for their thinking. They're out of the box ideas, reinventing their fields, disrupting their area, disrupting the way things are being done. So someone like Elon Musk would be a good example of this. And then the third type are consequential CEOs. And consequential CEOs are best known for the results that they produce. So maybe they turned a company around, or they dramatically expanded the company, or they got it onto the Inc. 5000 list, something like that, right? They led their company in a new direction. So those CEOs have that thought of leadership. So you can think of someone like Bill Gates. And one type of thought leadership isn't better than the other, but whether you are a consequential, a cerebral, or a celebrity CEO, the whole point is you want to know which one you are and build your CEO brand around that.